disruptive.
America that I fought for.
Weird thing to happen. Hello, one and all. Welcome to this edition of Kitz Corner. Been a fantastic day so far. So there's a guy by the name of Donny Deustch, or as some people will call him, Donny Deustch, because he is that kind of person. So this guy, Donny Deustch, or Donny Deustch, however you pronounce it, he's a regular he's been kind of a regular appearance on mainstream media, especially on MSNBC or CNBC. This guy, the only reason he's on television to begin with and why they consider him an expert is because his father ran a marketing firm, a major multi-billion-dollar marketing firm that this guy inherited from his father and bought himself media airtime. So now he's able to call himself an expert by buying off the media and marketing the media and marketing himself as some sort of expert on whatever news story comes up. So now here's Donny Deustch on a conversation about civilian casualties, about the genocide that's going on in Israel and how they are diminishing and wiping out an entire race of people. Because if anyone's the expert in this, it's a marketer. And here's how Donny Deustch is going to expertly tell you why civilian casualties is not the term we should be considering when it comes to the Palestinians. Listen to this.
We have to start to really talk honestly about the definition of civilian casualties. 4 hostages rescued and 270 Palestinian civilians killed. We need to start to look at that word civilians. When the hostages were being held by a Palestinian journalist, a civilian, and a Palestinian doctor, a civilian, these are not civilians. These are Hamas ambassadors. And yes, there are innocent civilians, but I think back to also the hundreds and thousands.
So this feels like more of an infomercial right off the bat. I mean, they have a branding and marketing expert to tell you that those Palestinians are not civilians. And let's try to redefine civilian. Because the whole purpose of like the Zionist movement, the whole purpose is try to delegitimize the Palestinians from being civilians by being called human beings. They're trying to dehumanize them so that they can get away with this heinous tactic towards them. If you dehumanize them, then people will think that, oh, they're just savages, they're wild animals, they're barbarians. Of course, we gotta massacre them by the millions. That's been projected within the Zionist movement, within the Mossad and the IDF. They dehumanize these people, so anyone that calls them civilians, they tried to redefine the terms of a civilian casualty. Well, what exactly is a civilian casualty? And even with the example that he's using about the 4 hostages that got rescued, again, put this into perspective. Put the numbers in perspective, okay? 4 hostages. And he's talking about the captors. He's talking about the people that took these hostages into whatever room in Gaza and kept them there. So, the numbers don't even add up to this. The fact that we're killing people by the hundreds, up close to thousands, to save 4 hostages that were kidnapped by a few Palestinians or a few Hamas supporters, apparently, in his logic. Even if that makes any sense to the normal audience, the numbers don't even add up. If we're concerned about saving the hostages, why are we killing extra on top of that and wiping out more people to save few? That makes absolutely no sense. So yes, that would be civilian casualties. Just like we have seen numerous amount of times when they said that, oh, there's a Hamas terrorist in an apartment building. Normal people would actually go and stop that one terrorist that they supposedly see in this apartment building. But instead of just stopping that one terrorist, they knock down the entire apartment building. Or they bomb the entire city. Because, hey, why not? So, in all sense, the numbers don't even add up to his insane, stupid remarks that he's saying about this. But let's hear the rest of this.
Thousands of rabid Gazans as they drag their corpse through Gaza, cheering, hysterical with glee and joy. And it's just, once again, the media coverage is, and these were 4 hostages that were taken on a day that 1,200 Israelis were slaughtered, maimed, decapitated, killed in the most gruesome way. And I don't know if Americans had 4 hostages that were taken. And
by the way, have they ever actually interviewed any of the hostages that were rescued? Do you ever see any news publication here in the West bother to interview the people that were rescued? You think that would be top priority for a network like MSNBC? You think that'd be top priority for CNN? You think that'd be a top priority to actually go and talk to these people and ask them how it felt to be captured by Hamas? Well, it turns out they don't want to hear from them. Isn't that something? We care so much about helping the hostages get free from Hamas, but we don't bother to interview them. We don't bother to hear their story, hear their suffering. I thought we cared a lot about them. Well, it turns out if we bothered to actually interview them and hear what they had to say, it would counteract their narrative. It would counteract the mainstream media's narrative to say that Hamas are a bunch of bloodthirsty rapists, because the people that were captured by Hamas were actually treated with genuine respect. And we've seen videos of it. There's videos countlessly circulating on social media websites that are showing this to you. But they don't want to ruin that narrative. They don't want to jeopardize and lose touch to people to say that the hostages were actually better kept with Hamas than they did with the IDF. So, of course, they're not going to get interviewed by the mainstream media. They're not going to actually listen to what they have to say, even though they care so much about the hostages. We got to rescue them. We got to care for them. We got to send all this money and all this military. We got to bomb this entire city because we got to save the hostages. But they don't want to hear a word from them. Isn't that kind of interesting?
And we had a rescue mission. And yes, there were 270 casualties, and many of those Palestinian casualties are deep, deep, deep sympathizers of Hamas. Would the coverage be the same way? Would anybody be criticizing the rescue mission, or would it be truly one of heroism? But I do think we have to start to really talk honestly about the definition of civilian casualties. We gotta
talk about the definition of civilian casualties. Like, we got to rebrand it in a way that people that are hearing this or watching this right now don't actually feel any empathy or sympathize with human lives. That's literally what he's saying. We got to redefine civilian casualties because we got to paint this narrative in one direction. And because people are looking at, say, TikTok or X or any of these other platforms that are witnessing the carnage right in front of their eyes, we don't want them to get the wrong idea and actually feel any human emotions for those people. Again, this is coming from a branding expert. This is coming from Donny Deustch, who once upon a time appeared on MSNBC during the 2016-2020 campaigns and told you, I don't care about policies. I'd rather vote for Donald Trump than Bernie Sanders because I don't want to give people health care. I don't want to actually do things for the benefit of the country. I want to keep my job. I'd rather have someone that would yell and scream at my face than someone that actually aspires to do anything for the country. That's who Donny Deustch is. He's an arrogant little rich kid asshole that inherited his father's marketing firm and then bought himself media time to seem like a glorified expert. That he knows nothing about Hamas, Palestine, Israel, or anything to do with that conflict. But we got to redefine civilian casualties. Just like, you know how they redefine vaccines or what it means to be vaccinated. Remember all the times they tried to do that? It always works beneficial for people when they start redefining words. And you know who likes this message, though, so much? The state of Israel. I kid you not. The state of Israel loves Donny Deustch's message so much that they retweeted this. The state of Israel with the silver check from X. Elon Musk gave him the silver check mark. And they said, we have to start to really talk honestly about the definition of civilian casualties. Donny Deustch is absolutely right. Absolutely right. That we got to dehumanize these people. So this genocide that we're wiping out an entire race of people, that we're doing an ethnic cleansing and completely eradicating an entire territory, doesn't look too bad. We got to rebrand it so people are okay with mass death. Reminder that a journalist and a doctor held Israeli hostages captive in Gaza. So they're claiming that a journalist and a doctor were holding Israeli people hostage. Well, let me ask you this. Who's holding Palestinians hostage? Let's have that honest conversation, because we don't talk about the Palestinians that have been held captive for many, many years, even before October 7th. We don't mention a word about that. Who's holding them captive? Is an Israeli journalist? Is an Israeli doctor? Oh, of course not, because you don't treat them like people. No, they're just members of the IDF that rape them, that dehumanize them, that torture them. They do unbelievable stuff to them. But they're never going to tell you that, because we got to redefine it so it sways in the direction and makes Israel seems still more like the victim. Even though they are the perpetrators of this warfare to begin with. They're the ones that advanced this terrorist group that they knew was going to bite them back in the ass so hard, but they continue to flourish them with money and weaponry and surveillance powers because they wanted the Palestinians to be delegitimized. They wanted them to not be liberated. They want to keep the status quo, keep Israel as the oppressor to the Palestinians, keep them in occupation, and that's why they need Hamas to keep striving on. That's why they need Hamas to still continue on. Because if Hamas wasn't there, then everyone would know that Israel's actually just bombing them for the sake of bombing them. This is all a marketing strategy. And speaking of which, this person says that the government of Israel's official Twitter account is not just running with "there are no innocent civilians in Gaza." They are now boasting this tweet as an advertisement. And that's kind of metaphorical, isn't it? That in the end, this war, much like any other war, is a matter of business. So it is kind of funny that they would highlight a message of a complete catastrophe, a genocide, as an advertisement. Because in the end, it really is a matter of business. Right now, as they're wiping out entire cities and slaughtering Palestinians by the millions, they're opening up real estate along the Gazan beaches and opening it up to other global elitists. And they're also now trying to pass legislature to advance into Palestinian territory to start taking their natural resources. Oh, yes, there are natural resources that they want out of Palestine. You would know that by watching the mainstream media, but it's all there. We've shown it on Artia covered it, and anyone that's actually not bought by an APEC lobbyist. I know it's very hard to find at this point, and if you even mention the word APEC, you're automatically an anti-Semite for even mentioning those heinous words. How dare we mention about a $1 trillion lobby firm that has bought all the entire countries by storm? But yes, it really comes down to a matter of business, because the war profiteers, the warmongers, the munitions, the fact that Israel's still getting aid from all its allied nations and blackmailing them to funnel as much money as possible. It's all a business opportunity. So it is metaphorically hilarious that a tweet about mass casualties and trying to redefine what a civilian casualty is would be considered an advertisement to the state of Israel. Not a matter of consciousness, not a matter of an actual discussion, not a matter of, hey, maybe we should get to the negotiation table so we can end this war so that no one on any side would actually die from this horrific catastrophe. No. It's an advertisement. So, kind of just elaborate on the real philosophical point of this war. And just like Julian Assange has always reminded us, the point of these wars is not to have a resolution or to actually solve any conflict. The whole point of this is continuous, so that the war profiteers, the global investors, the bankers, the geopolitical analysts, the lobby firms, people like Benjamin Netanyahu and Joe Biden, and any other global leader that has invested so much into this can laugh themselves to the bank, while the rest of humanity is within their own blood, is completely devastated and eradicated with bloodshed. That's the whole purpose of this. It really comes down to a matter of business. So calling this an advertisement, kind of accurate.